Isn't this a glorious occasion? Wow. I don't know if anyone can hear me. It is such a privilege to be here, and I'd like to thank Andrea and Ian and the whole cast of suspects. I'm actually going to talk about the most recent thing I learned about in PAR was multinodal PAR. I met somebody at a conference I thought was really smart who was doing participatory research on Katrina. Excuse me. And I invited her to speak at our department seminar, and I knew that I had done the right thing when she said, "I'd love to come. I will pay for her hotel and her airfare, but I will only come if my research partner comes and speaks with me as an equal collaborator." Real deal stuff. And in the meantime, the BP oil spill happened, and they had been working, so the community partner was a very feisty Presbyterian minister who had spent the previous 20 years fighting coal companies in West Virginia. The BP oil spill happened, and communities which had already been devastated ecologically, economically, culturally, socially, were devastated again. And they were working with a Cajun community, which is a white community in the South, but they're marginalized because they have French ancestry. So what they did, they'd been doing PAR, but now they knew it was way beyond anything they knew. And so they got in touch with communities in Alaska, and particularly Native American communities. And they began talking on Skype. They began talking about what are the questions you should ask, what should you push on, where do you go, and they talked about the pain and the spiritual devastation. And there were phone calls where everybody was crying for 20 minutes, which for me is such an amazing thing. They started doing visitations between the two communities. And what was happening is that the PAR was not being driven in any sense at all from the University of New Orleans. It was being driven by these two groups, marginalized groups, thousands of miles apart, faced with fighting a multinational oil company and doing it together, and recognizing that the problem they faced had not with just the ecological and economic devastation, but also with the harm to their culture and to their spiritual life. For example, out of my garden, vast quantities of sage went back to New Orleans because it no longer grows in those areas and it's used for spiritual reasons. So when I was asked to talk about revolutions, methodological revolutions, that's it, multinodal PAR. And I think it is really important because it's moving the control away from us, giving away the stick. That's being carried on by those two communities, and I think that is a major, major way that we all need to be going. So I'm actually going to be very short because that's all I need to say. I do want to say, however, because I haven't used up my time, right? No, that's what I thought. One of the things, as we're thinking about methodological revolutions, how do we answer this question, which is why, despite the huge accumulation in the work of Robert Chambers and the work of so many people in this room, why, when the evidence is overwhelming that in particular circumstances, maybe not in nuclear engineering, but in many circumstances, participatory research is effective. It is more effective than conventional scientists going it alone. Why, when that evidence is out there, why, when the only people this bayou community could really turn to were other communities in Alaska, why are there still people patrolling the boundaries of science in the universities and arguing in print last I knew, 2000, I'm sure there's some, 2010, there's undoubtedly something 2011, that only PhDs can do knowledge, do science, create knowledge, or create policy. Why is that? Why is that not embarrassing to publish? And what is it that we need to do besides training our students to infiltrate the university? What do we do to make that like flattery?